drive up from our family farm in the rolling hills of Addison County had stretched into eternity, the green mountains blurring past in shades of bruised purple and fading gold, autumn's cruel reminder that things fall away. Mom had tried once, her voice cracking over the crackle of the radio playing some country tune about lost love. Well, find a way to visit, sweetheart. But even then, the lie tasted metallic on her tongue, and I swallowed it down with the bile rising in my throat. Now, as the wagon's taillights swallowed the downpour whole, shrinking into red smudges on the winding road back to a home that no longer included me, I realized this wasn't abandonment by accident. It was exile, deliberate and dressed in the piety of small-town shame. The headmaster, Mr. Ellis, a gaunt man with wire-rimmed glasses and a mustache that twitched like a nervous ferret, emerged from the arched oak doors of the main hall, his umbrella blooming open like a black flower. "Mr. Harper," he called, his voice carrying the clipped efficiency of New England propriety. "Let's get you inside before you catch your death." I followed him up the slick stone steps, my sneakers squelching, the weight of my suitcase pulling at my arm like an anchor dragging me under. Inside, the lobby smelled of polished wood and faint mildew, portraits of stern alumni glaring down from paneled walls, their eyes judging the newcomer who didn't fit the mold. A boy about my age, lanky with freckles and a mop of red hair, lingered by the staircase, pretending to tie his shoelace but stealing glances. "New kid," he whispered when Mr. Ellis turned to bark orders at a janitor. I nodded, throat too tight for words, and he grinned, all teeth and mischief. "Imteel. Don't worry. This place'll toughen you up or break you. Mostly the first." Theo Whitaker, I learned later, son of a Boston shipping magnate, sent here for reasons his parents called character building, but everyone knew meant dodging the scandals of a wild city youth. He became my first tether in that storm-tossed sea of Hawthorne, showing me the dorms with their creaky bunk beds and shared bathrooms that echoed with the ghosts of 100 homesick boys, the mess hall where mashed potatoes congealed under harsh fluorescence, and the hidden spot behind the boathouse where wed skipped stones and trade secrets under the cover of willows. But even Theo couldn't fill the void left by the letters that never came, the holidays where the school stayed half empty and I bunked with stragglers like me, pretending the ache was just indigestion from too much turkey. Nights were the worst, lying in the top bunk with the moon slicing through frost-laced windows, replaying that morning. Dad's face hardening when he found my diary under the mattress, the pages where I'd drawn hearts around Jamie's name from 3rd grade, innocent as dandelions but damning in their eyes. "He's confused," Mom had pleaded to Dad, but he shut her down with a look that said confusion was a luxury for normal sons. They drove away without a backward glance, leaving me to the mercy of strangers who enforced curfews and chapel services where the preacher railed against sins of the flesh that felt aimed straight at my quivering heart. By winter, snow blanketed the grounds in a hush that amplified every creak, and I learned to bury my feelings deeper than the drifts, sketching in stolen notebooks instead of writing words that might betray me again. Theo caught me once, poring over a drawing of 2 boys holding hands against a sunset, and instead of mocking, he sat beside me, his shoulder brushing mine in a way that sent sparks through the numbness. "That's beautiful, Chris," he said, using the nickname that stuck like glue. "You got a gift. Don't let this place steal it." But Hawthorne did steal pieces. In the bully from the lacrosse team who cornered me in the showers, hissing "fairy" through clenched teeth until Theo shoved him back with a wild swing that earned us both detentions. In that dim-tiled room, steam curling like accusations, I first understood the world's sharp edges, how love unspoken could draw blood. Spring thawed the ice, but not my resolve. I threw myself into classes, devouring books on artists like Hopper and Steinbeck, finding in their lonely figures echoes of my own fractured self. Summers were the cruelest, when families arrived in gleaming SUVs to whisk boys away, and I stayed, earning extra chores for the privilege of not being alone. Mr. Ellis took pity once, inviting me to his cluttered office for tea, where he shared stories of his own youth in a stricter era, hinting at pains unspoken. "Resilience, lad," he murmured, stirring sugar into his cup. "It's the quiet fire that forges us." I clung to that, letting it warm the cold spots where parental love should have been. By my 12th birthday, marked with a smudged cupcake from Theos' contraband stash, I began to dream beyond the iron gates. Cities pulsing with possibility, where a boy like me could breathe without apology. Theo and I plotted escapes in whispers, mapping routes to New York on pilfered atlases, but reality anchored us. That fall, a letter finally arrived, postmarked from Addison, but it wasn't from them. It was from Aunt Lydia, Dad's estranged sister in Burlington, enclosing a crumpled $20 bill and a note. "Hang in there, nephew. They'll come around. Or they want. Either way, you're stronger than their narrow god." I folded it into my sketchbook, a talisman against the doubt. As years layered like sedimentary rock, Hawthorne shaped me into a quiet observer, emotions banked like embers under ash. I excelled in art and literature, teachers praising my mature perspective, unaware it was born of loss. Friendships bloomed and wilted. Theo left for prep school in Andover after 8th grade, promising letters that dwindled to postcards, his life veering toward Ivy pedigrees while mine rooted in the soil of survival. New boys came and went, some allies like quiet Javier from Miami, who taught me Spanglish curses under the covers, others foes who sensed my softness and prodded until I learned to parry with wit sharper than their fists. Puberty arrived like a thief, hormones stirring questions I dared not voice, dreams tangled with faces from chapel hymns and locker room glances. I hid it all, channeling into charcoal strokes that captured the curve of a jaw, the vulnerability in an arched brow, art as my confessional. One evening, during a rare town outing to Montpelier, I slipped into a dusty bookstore and found a worn copy of Giovanni's Room. Its pages whispering truths ID felt but never named. Back in my bunk, flashlight beam dancing, I devoured it, tears blurring the ink as David grappled with his desires in Parisian shadows. It was a mirror and a map showing me I wasn't monstrous, just human in a world that flinched from mirrors. That night, I wrote my first real letter home, pouring out the confusion, the longing for arms that wouldn't recoil. Weeks passed, then months. No reply. The silence screamed louder than any sermon. By 15, I was a fixture at Hawthorne, the art kid with the haunted eyes, leading the drama club in productions of Our Town, where I played the stage manager, narrating lives unlived from a safe remove. Behind the curtain, though doubts gnawed, would I ever escape this echo chamber of rejection? The answer came unbidden one crisp October dawn, as I stood on the frost-kissed quad, watching a flock of geese arrow south. Freedom, I realized, wasn't given. It was claimed one defiant step at a time. And so, with scholarships in sight and a portfolio thick as my resolve, I set my sights on the horizon, the spires of New York calling like a lover's promise. Little did I know, the past has hooks that snag deeper with time, pulling you back when you least expect. But for now, in the hush of that Vermont morning, I was just a boy learning to fly. The train from Burlington to Penn Station rattled like a confession spilling out, each clack of the tracks marking miles from the boy I'd been to the man I hoped to become. At 18, fresh from Hawthorne's graduation, where I'd walked the stage alone, no proud parents in the folding chairs, I clutched my acceptance letter to NYU like a shield, the city skyline rising in my mind's eye as both beacon and beast. New York swallowed me whole that first September, its avenues a concrete jungle pulsing with horns and hurried strides, brownstones in Greenwich Village yielding to my sublet on Bleecker Street, a walk-up with peeling wallpaper and a view of fire escapes tangled like veins. My roommate, Finn O'Connor, was a theater major from Chicago with a laugh like thunder and a penchant for midnight ramen. His easy acceptance of my guarded stories a balm after years of coded language. "So, what's your poison, Harper?" he asked on move-in day, heaving my duffel onto the sagging futon, sweat beading on his freckled brow. I hesitated, then let it slip. "Guys, always have." He clapped my shoulder, grin splitting wide. "Welcome to the club, then. This city's got more rainbows than a Skittles factory." Freedom tasted like that first falafel from a halal cart on Washington Square, spicy and unapologetic. But beneath the thrill lurked the shadow of old wounds, manifesting in panic attacks that struck without warning. Heart racing in crowded subways, convinced every stare was judgment reloaded. Classes anchored me. Life drawing in a sunlit studio where models posed nude, There forms a study in vulnerability that mirrored my own sketches. Literature seminars dissecting Baldwin and White, voices that named the ache ID carried unnamed. I threw myself into it, charcoal staining my fingers black as midnight, capturing the arc of a stranger's neck, the play of light on collarbones that spoke of secrets shared in dim bars. Evenings blurred into explorations. Stonewall Inn, where the air hummed with history and hookups, the jukebox crooning show tunes as men leaned close, breaths mingling with cigarette smoke. My first kiss happened there, tentative and tasting of whiskey, with a barista named Riley whose tattooed arms wrapped around me like forgiveness. It was electric, a spark igniting long-dormant fires, but dawn brought the crash. His number scrawled on a napkin that I never called, fear whispering that connection meant loss. I dated sporadically after that, flings with artists and actors that fizzled under the weight of my walls. Each goodbye a small echo of that rainy Vermont drop-off. Work pulled me through. Barista shifts at a cozy spot in the West Village called Brewed Awakening, where steam from the espresso machine veiled the rush, regulars becoming familiars. Mrs. Kowalski with her daily latte and tales of pre-war Poland, or Jamal, the graphic designer who sketched on napkins and flirted with every cute customer, including me. "You got that brooding poet vibe, Chris?" he'd say, winking over his macchiato. Dangerous. It was harmless, a flirtation that eased the loneliness without demanding entry. But holidays hollowed me out. Thanksgiving found me at Finn's family's diner in Queens. Turkey and pie shared with boisterous aunts who pinched my cheeks and asked after that nice girl you're seeing. Their innocence a knife twist. Christmas. I volunteered at a shelter in Hell's Kitchen, serving stew to men who'd lost more than homes. Their stories of coming out in eras of AIDS and silence weaving a tapestry of shared scars. One night, an older man named Harlan, silver-haired with eyes like faded denim, gripped my hand over cocoa. "They threw me out at 16, kid. Built a life anyway. You will too." His words lodged in my chest, a seed of possibility. Spring semester brought breakthroughs. A gallery show for student work in Soho, my pieces, ethereal figures in urban twilight, drawing murmurs of evocative from critics in ill-fitting blazers. Theo appeared then, unannounced, striding into the crowded space with a bottle of cheap champagne, his Andover polish softened by Yale law books under his arm. "Look at you, conquering the concrete jungle," he laughed, pulling me into a hug that smelled of cologne and old loyalties. We caught up over greasy slices at Ray's, him recounting conquests and crises, me editing my truths to fit the glow of reunion. "Parents?" he asked finally, sauce dripping from his chin. I shrugged, the old scar itching. "Haven't heard a peep. Assume they're thriving in their denial." He squeezed my knee under the table, a gesture platonic yet profound. "Screw 'em. You're the star now." That summer, I interned at a midtown ad agency, churning mood boards for cologne campaigns that romanticized masculinity in ways that both repelled and intrigued me. Late nights bled into dawns at after-hours clubs in the meatpacking district, bodies grinding under strobe lights, where I met Luca, a dancer from Prague with cheekbones sharp as glass and a laugh that cut through the bass. Our nights tangled in his loft overlooking the Hudson, sheets rumpled with urgency, his accent wrapping around whispers of "beautiful boy" as we traced maps on each other's skin. For the first time, vulnerability felt like victory, not surrender. I told him about Hawthorne, the wagon vanishing in rain, and he listened without pity, his fingers interlacing mine. "You are Phoenix, Christian. Burned, but rising." But Luca drifted with the seasons, gigs pulling him to LA, our goodbye a airport kiss that tasted of jet fuel and what-ifs. Fall deepened my roots. A solo exhibit at a tiny gallery in Chelsea, Echoes of Exile, where charcoal ghosts of boys on thresholds drew tears from strangers. Critics called it raw, resonant. And suddenly, commissions trickled in, portraits for magazines, illustrations for queer-lit zines. Finn landed a role off-Broadway, our apartment emptying of scripts but filling with his triumphs. Yet, the void persisted, a low hum beneath the hustle. One gray November afternoon, sorting mail in the lobby, I found it. An envelope, yellowed and postmarked Addison, VT. My hands shook as I slid it open, Dad's handwriting stark on the page. Christian, your mother and I saw your name in the Burlington Free Press. Proud of your accomplishments. Best, Elias. No apology, no address for reply. Just a postcard from the past, tossed like crumbs to a stray. Rage boiled, then ebbed to sorrow. I crumpled it, but kept the pieces, a puzzle unsolved. That night, over whiskey with Jamal at a dive on Christopher Street, I confessed the sting. They think a pat on the back erases a decade of nothing? He nodded, clinking glasses. Forgiveness ain't for them, man. It's for you. But damn if it don't hurt first. Winter wrapped the city in tinsel and chill, holiday lights mocking my solitary tree. A Charlie Brown pine in the corner. I baked cookies for the shelter, sketched carolers in the snow, found solace in the rhythm of creation. By 22, graduation loomed. A bachelor's in fine arts clutched like a talisman. Commencement on a sun-drenched quad. Finn whooping from the stands. Theo texting from a Boston courtroom. Break a leg, Hawthorne survivor. Diplomas in hand, I stepped into the throng. The future a blank canvas streaked with possibility and peril. Little did I know, love was waiting in the wings, scripted with twists sharper than any sketch. The gallery opening in Dumbo, Brooklyn, hummed with the low buzz of ambition and Merlot. Exposed brick walls flickering under pendant lights that cast long shadows like unspoken desires. At 24, ID carved a niche as a portraitist, my style moody, intimate, eyes that held storms. Landing gigs with indie mags and queer nonprofits. My studio a sun-drenched loft in Bushwick rented on a whim after a windfall commission from a tech bro wanting his coming out immortalized. That night, amid clusters of art school dropouts and Silver Fox collectors, I spotted him across the room. Alex Rivera, leaning against a beam with a sketchpad tucked under his arm, his dark curls catching the glow like embers, olive skin glowing against a crisp white shirt unbuttoned just enough to hint at the tattoo peeking from his collarbone. A compass rose, inked in delicate lines. Our eyes met over the rim of my plastic cup, his hazel gaze locking with a curiosity that felt like recognition, and when he approached, extending a hand calloused from guitar strings. Your work guts me, man. That one, the guy on the fire escape, staring at the skyline like it's both cage and key. That's me on bad days. I felt the hook set deep. Alex was a musician, 26, raised in the sprawl of Los Angeles by a Mexican-American mom who'd fled Juarez as a teen and a dad who'd bailed before he could walk. Scraping by as a session player for indie bands while gigging at open mics in the East Village. We talked for hours, the crowd thinning around us. His voice a warm baritone laced with SoCal vowels, sharing stories of dive bar stages and the ache of melodies that wouldn't quite land. Music's my confessional, he said, fingers drumming an absent rhythm on his thigh. Yours. I gestured to the walls, where a self-portrait hung unobtrusively. A younger me, eyes downcast in hawthorn moonlight. Same. But sometimes the canvas lies back. By closing, we were the last ones, sweeping floors for the owner in exchange for the leftover wine, laughing over spilled reds that stained like blood oaths. He walked me to the F train, the night air crisp with river brine, and when he kissed me goodbye, soft, lingering, tasting of courage. It wasn't a fling. It was a prelude. Dates followed like verses in a song. Coffee at a hole in the wall in Williamsburg, where he played snippets of half-written tunes on his acoustic, hazel eyes crinkling as I sketched him mid-chord. Walks along the High Line, weeds pushing through cracks mirroring the wildness in his grin. Dinners at his cramped walk-up in Alphabet City, where Wed cooked carnitas from his mom's recipe, the sizzle punctuating tales of his youth, sneaking into punk shows, coming out at 16 to a mom who hugged him, tighter than before, saying, "Mi hijo, love whoever lights your soul." His acceptance was effortless, a melody without discord, and in his arms, the old fractures began to mend. Nights tangled in his sheets where whispers turned to gasps, bodies mapping forgiveness in sweat-slicked skin. But shadows lingered. My silences about family drew his gentle probes, met with deflections wrapped in humor. Someday, I'd murmur against his neck, and head pull me closer, as if love could caulk the cracks. Our worlds intertwined seamlessly. I illustrated his album covers, ethereal figures strumming against stormy skies. He scored a short film I directed about lost boys in Vermont woods, his guitar weeping strings that echoed my ache. Friends folded us in, Finn directing Alex's band in a fringe festival play, Jamal DJing our housewarmers in the loft, now shared, its walls papered with our joint creations. Yet, success amplified the undercurrents. My profiles in Out and The Advocate, the artist who paints absence, brought offers from LA galleries, tempting relocations that sparked our first real fight. "I'm rooted here, Chris," he said over cooling takeout, frustration etching lines around his mouth. "This city's our chorus. Don't make me solo." I backed down, but the seed of doubt sprouted. Was I enough anchor or just another nomad? Holidays tested us. Christmas at his mom's in Echo Park, a stucco bungalow strung with luminarias, her abuelita fussing over tamales while Alex translated my sketches into family lore. Their warmth a salve that nearly drew my confession about the Harpers. But fear clamped my lips. Instead, I gifted Alex a portrait of us intertwined, eyes meeting in quiet promise. New Year dawned with resolutions whispered at midnight mass in a candlelit basilica, his hand in mine as bells tolled. Spring bloomed collaborations. A queer art crawl in Chelsea, our booth a hit with interactive pieces, visitors tracing their scars on mirrors that reflected back in fractured beauty. Critics raved, Rivera and Harper, a duet of defiance. And suddenly, we were a brand, invitations flooding for panels on visibility. But beneath the glow, my past stirred. An email from Aunt Lydia, forwarding a church bulletin from Addison, Dad's name in the deacon's list, Mom's photo beaming beside the bake sale table. "They ask about you sometimes," she wrote. In passing, the words ignited a fury ID thought banked, and I slammed the laptop, Alex finding me pacing the loft, rain lashing the skylight. "Talk to me," he urged, pulling me to the rug, his touch a lifeline. Haltingly, it spilled, the diary, the rain, the silence that spanned years. He held me through the sobs, rocking like a lullaby. "That's not love, babe. That's fear dressed as faith. You deserve choirs, not echoes." His words were a balm, but the wound wept. Summer sweltered, gigs pulling him to festivals upstate, me burying in commissions, a series for a trans youth center, portraits of resilience that mirrored my mending. One humid night, post-show at Bowery Ballroom, sweat-soaked and euphoric, he proposed a road trip. "Back to your roots, Vermont. Face the ghosts on my terms, with me." I resisted, terror coiling, but his persistence wore me down. We packed the old Jeep, playlists of his demos looping as we crossed the Tappan Zee, leaves turning early in the Catskills. The drive north unspooled memories, passing farms like ours, silos stark against amber fields. At a diner in Albany, pie cooling between us, I confessed the what-ifs. Would they have stayed if I'd been different? Alex's hand covered mine. "You were never different, Chris. You were you. That's the gift they couldn't handle." We reached Addison at dusk, the farm a weathered sentinel on the hill, lights flickering in windows ID once called home. Heart pounding, I knocked, Mom answering in an apron dusted with flour, her face crumpling like tissue. "Christian?" she breathed, Dad appearing behind, grizzled now, eyes widening in shock. The reunion was a stutter of small talk. My work, the city, weather a shield, tension thick as chowder. Alex charmed with easy grace, complimenting her quilts. But when Dad asked, "Seeing anyone special?" I met his gaze. "Yes, Alex, my partner." Silence fell, heavy as judgment. Mom's hand fluttering to her throat, Dad's jaw tightening. "Well," he said finally, voice strained, "that's modern." We left after coffee, the door clicking shut like a period. In the Jeep, tears streamed as Alex drove, his free hand squeezing mine. "You did it. You showed up." Back in Brooklyn, the city's pulse revived us, but the visit cracked something open. A resolve to claim my narrative. Fall brought milestones. Alex's EP release, Harbor Lights, tracks infused with our story, debuting to sold-out crowds at Mercury Lounge. I curated a show at MoMA PS1, Reclaimed Spaces, featuring queer artists who'd turned exile into empire. Critics lauded, but personal tides turned darker. A call from Theo, voice slurred from a DC bar, confessing his own closeted marriage crumbling. "You were right to run, Chris. Don't look back." It echoed my own precipice. Winter whispered changes. Snow blanketed the loft. Us burrowed under quilts, dreaming futures. But as Valentine's neared, a letter arrived. Dad's script again. "Saw your exhibit in the paper. Talent like yours. We were wrong to let fear win. We'd like to talk. Truly." Hope flickered, treacherous as a match in wind. Alex read it over my shoulder, hugging tight. "Your call, love. But whatever, I'm your forever." The precipice loomed, and I teetered, unaware the fall would forge or shatter. The letter from Addison sat on the kitchen island like a landmine, its edges curling in the steam from our morning pour-overs, Alex's hazel eyes flicking to it between sips of black coffee, his silence a patient invitation. At 27, our life in Bushwick had ripened into rhythm. Mornings with his strums harmonizing my sketches, evenings where we'd collapse on the thrift store sectional, takeout containers as confetti from conquered days. My career crested. A solo show at a Tribeca space, Veins of Absence, selling out to collectors who saw in my layered oils the strata of unspoken grief. Proceeds funding a scholarship for LGBTQ youth at rural arts programs. A quiet fuck you to Hawthorne's Ghosts. Alex Band, The Compass Roses, inked a deal with an indie label. Tours teasing the horizon but always circling home. Yet that envelope disrupted the melody. Dad's words, "We were wrong." A siren song laced with doubt. "What if it's another crumb?" I murmured, tracing the postmark. Alex set his mug down, curls tousled from sleep, pulling me onto his lap. "Then it's crumbs you don't eat. But if it's real, you get to rewrite the ending." His logic, simple as a chord progression, nudged me forward. I replied, neutral as fog, "Coffee in the city? Neutral ground." Their acceptance came swift, a train ticket enclosed like olive branch. The meetup was set for a diner in Midtown, neutral as Alex promised. Booths of cracked vinyl, waitresses calling orders in Brooklynese. I arrived early, nerves jangling like subway chains, sketching absently on a napkin. A man and woman across a chasm, hands outstretched but palms upturned. They entered together, Mom slimmer, silver threading her bob. Dad stooped slightly, flannel swapped for a button-down that strained at the shoulders. Hugs were awkward, bones through fabric, but their eyes, hers watery, his averted, held fractures ID not seen before. Over eggs and hash, stories tumbled. The farm's struggling post-recession, siblings scattered, their church softening on those issues after a pastor's son came out. "We prayed," Mom said, fork hovering, "for guidance. Realized we'd been the lost ones." Dad cleared his throat, voice gravel. "Pride, son. Saw the parade on TV last year. Your face in the crowd, marching. Looked free." It was halting, no grand apology, but threads of truth wove through. I shared snippets. NYU triumphs, Alex laugh, the loft where love bloomed unchecked. They listened, nodding, and when I mentioned the wedding idea, not yet proposed but dreamed, they stiffened, then softened. "We'd be there," Dad said, meeting my gaze for the first time. "If you'll have us." The train back to Brooklyn blurred, elation warring with wariness. Alex waiting at the station with tacos and a six-pack, his embrace absorbing the spill. "Brave as hell," he whispered, and that night, we made love slow and deliberate, bodies affirming what words couldn't yet. Spring unfurled with plans. Scouting venues in the Hudson Valley, rustic barns with views of the Catskills that echoed Vermont without the sting. Alex proposed on a whim during a hike in Harriman, dropping to one knee amid wildflowers. Ring a simple silver band etched with coordinates of our first kiss. "Marry me, Christian Harper? Make the music official." Tears mixed with laughter, yes tumbling out as natural as breath. News spread like wildfire. Finn toasting at our engagement party in a rooftop bar overlooking the East River. Jamal curating a playlist of queer anthems, Theo flying in from DC, single now and radiant in his truth. Invites went out in handmade cards, my sketches of intertwined hands on the covers. But the one to Addison weighed heaviest, sealed with a sketch of the farm under benevolent skies. Their RSVP. Yes, with a note from Mom. Can't wait to meet the man who makes you shine. Rehearsals wove us tighter. Alex's mom flying in, her warmth enveloping like tortillas, insisting on toasting with mezcal shots. My art circle brainstorming decor. Lanterns strung like constellations, tables laden with farm-to-table spreads nodding. To roots reclaimed. But fissures cracked. A call from Aunt Lydia, voice laced with warning. Elias is trying, Chris. Church pressures mounting. Don't build castles on sand. Doubt crept, but Alex dispelled it with late-night jams, his guitar serenading away the shadows. Summer swelled the tour schedule, Alex headlining festivals from Austin to Seattle, video calls crackling with his exhaustion and adoration. Miss your sketches, babe. Draw me home. Head say and ID oblige, portraits mailed to green rooms. Him mid-chorus, eyes alight. Solo, I dove into wedding prep, commissioning a mural for the venue. A tree of life with branches bearing faces of chosen family. One humid afternoon, sorting RSVPs in the loft, the phone rang. Unknown Vermont number. Dad's voice strained. Christian, we need to talk. In person. Soon. Alarm bells pealed. I drove north the next day. Alex texts a lifeline in my pocket. The farm looked diminished. Paint peeling like old skin. Mom in the kitchen kneading dough, eyes red-rimmed. Dad paced the porch, pipe smoke curling. The church, he started, words tumbling. Elders cornered us after the invite. Said attending. It's a stance. Against scripture. My stomach plummeted. And, Mom interjected, flour-dusted hands twisting. We told em to shove it. But it's hard, son. Neighbors whispering. Lost a contract already. Betrayal bit not from them but the world that weaponized faith. So you're out. I pressed, voice steel. Dad nodded, slow. For you. For us, finally. Tears came then, collective, the porch a confessional under cicada hum. We hugged proper, bones mending in embrace. And as I drove south, sun dipping low, hope solidified, not flawless, but forged. Fall painted the city gold, wedding 3 months out, final fittings in a Nolita atelier. Me in a tailored charcoal suit, Alex in navy linen, mirrors reflecting futures intertwined. Rehearsal dinner at a waterfront spot in Red Hook, laughter echoing off beams as toasts flowed. Finn's ribald anecdotes, Theos' solemn vow of brotherhood. Alex's mom reciting a blessing in Spanish that brought the room to hushed beauty. But the night before the big day, a storm brewed. Not weather, but words. Dad called, voice breaking. Chris, the elders. They're rallying. Threats to the farm if we show. Panic surged, visions of that rainy drop-off replaying. Then don't, I snapped, but he pressed. We're coming. Damn the cost. Alex found me curled on the loft floor, rain pattering the roof. Let it hurt, love, but don't let it win. Dawn broke clear, the venue a bucolic haven in the Palisades. Cliffs framing the Hudson like a vow. Guests arrived in waves. Queer kin from stages and studios. Straights who'd learned allyship in our orbit. Mom and Dad pulled up last, tentative in pressed clothes. But when they saw me at the altar, eyes shining, they rushed forward, hugs fierce. You're breathtaking, Mom whispered. The ceremony unfolded like poetry. Officiant a drag queen friend with voice like velvet. Vows exchanged under an arch of wild roses. Alex, you're my north. Mi amor, mine in your light. I found mine. Rings slid on, kisses sealed with cheers, but midway through the reception, as cake sliced and band swung into at last. A commotion at the gate. Church folks from Addison, signs hoisted like crosses, chanting slurs that sliced the joy. Security ushered them back, but the venom lingered, Dad's face ashen as he confessed. They followed us. Rage and grief collided, but Alex took the mic, voice steady. This is love, real, ragged, redemptive. Join or leave, but don't poison the well. Silence fell, then applause thundered, the intruders slinking away. Later, under stars, Dad pulled me aside, tears carving tracks. I'm sorry, son, for the boy I failed, for the man I almost lost again. Forgiveness flowed, not erasure but acceptance. A bridge built of broken beams. The night danced on, toasts to resilience, and as Alex and I swayed to a slow Etta James cover, his head on my shoulder, I knew. Abandonment had birthed this, a family chosen and reclaimed, love the ultimate defiance. The morning after the rehearsal, sunlight slanted through the inn's gauzy curtains like a hesitant apology, the Hudson Valley air crisp with promise and the faint tang of impending rain. At 28, the cusp of vows felt like standing on a cliff's edge, wind tugging at the fabric of the man I'd become, scarred but steady, artist with hands that had learned to hold without clutching. Alex stirred beside me, his curls a dark halo on the pillow, murmuring sleep-thick Spanish as I traced the compass tattoo on his chest, its needle pointing true north, us. Breakfast in the sunroom brought levity. Finn regaling with tales of last night's escapades, Theo nursing a hangover with black coffee, Alex's mom, Rosa, pressing arepas wrapped in foil into our palms, her eyes twinkling with maternal conspiracy. For strength, Mijo, she said, kissing my cheek. Her acceptance a quiet revolution against the losses we'd both known. But beneath the chatter, tension simmered. Dad's call the night before lingered, the church's shadow a specter at the feast. I texted him good morning, receiving a thumbs-up emoji, his concession to modernity, that eased the knot in my gut. The day unfolded in a whirl of setups, Jamal stringing fairy lights across the barn's rafters, their glow promising magic against the wooden beams. Florists weaving lavender and eucalyptus into arches that arched like hopeful brows. My art collective arranging easels with collaborative pieces, canvases where guests had added strokes during the welcome mixer, a tapestry of color born from community. Alex and I stole moments. A quick kiss behind the cider press, his hands framing my face. Today's our blank page, amor. Let's fill it fierce. By afternoon, guests trickled in, queer couples from my gallery circles, hands linked like declarations. Musicians from Alex's label, guitars slung casual as dreams. Even Mr. Ellis from Hawthorne, frail now but beaming in a tweed jacket, clasping my hand with, "You've painted a masterpiece, lad." The air hummed with anticipation, string quartet tuning in the meadow, but as golden hour approached, a black SUV crunched gravel at the lot's edge. Mom and Dad, stepping out in Sunday best, her arm looped through his, faces a study in resolve. They spotted me across the lawn, waving from the prep tent, and approached slow, as if testing thin ice. Hugs exchanged, Mama's perfume of lavender and regret enveloping me, Dad's grip firm on my shoulder. "Place looks like one of your paintings," he said, gesturing to the vista, cliffs plunging to the river below, full of life. Small talk bridged the gap, weather, the barn's history as a dairy-turned-event space, until Rosa swept in, introductions warm with handshakes and encantada, her effortless grace disarming their stiffness. As we posed for pre-ceremony photos, the photographer capturing us in clusters, the group tableau felt fragile, a still life on the verge of motion. Vows loomed, guests seating on hay bale rose under the arch, the officiant Lila, a burlesque performer turned minister with a voice like smoked honey, signaling start. Alex walked the aisle first, guitar case abandoned for a boutonniere of succulence, his stride confident, eyes locking on mine with a smile that buckled my knees. I followed, heart thundering a bass line to the quartet's Canon in D. The path lined with faces that had witnessed my becoming. Friends had held space for my silences. Lovers had taught tenderness. At the altar, hands joined, rings poised, Lilith's words wove the spell. Love is not the absence of storm, but the choice to dance in it. Our vows poured out, Alex's voice cracking on. "You taught me home is a heartbeat, not a place, mine steady within your gaze. I found the boy I was meant to be, unashamed." Rings exchanged, kiss sealing. A soft press that deepened under cheers, the world narrowing to his taste of mint and forever. The reception ignited. Barn doors flung wide to reveal long tables groaning under farm-fresh bounty. Roasted quail, heirloom salads, pies from a local orchard, candlelight, dancing on mason jars, toasts cascaded. Finn's bawdy limerick drawing roars, theos poignant, to brothers by choice, blood by battle. Rose's blessing invoking saints and stars. Alex and I cut the cake, a lemonberry tower adorned with sugared violets, feeding bites amid laughter, but as the band, his bandmates on a makeshift stage, launched into a cover of Wonderwall, a ripple disturbed the flow. Whispers from the bar, heads turning toward the entrance where two figures hovered. Not guests, but interlopers. Men in ill-fitting suits, faces flushed from the drive, one clutching a Bible like a shield. Church elders from Addison, uninvited harbingers. My stomach iced. Dad at my elbow, paled, murmuring they tailed us. Goddamn. Security, two burly cousins of Jamal's, moved to intercept, but the taller one, a deacon with jowls like a bulldog, raised his voice. This abomination in the Lord's sight. Repent, Elias, before it's too late. Gasps rippled, joy fracturing like glass under heel. Alex's hand tightened on mine, his body a bulwark, but I stepped forward, pulse roaring. This is my wedding, my life. Leave or be removed. The words hung, steel-wrapped silk, and for a beat, the deacon faltered, eyes darting to Dad, who stepped beside me, voice low thunder. Go. You don't speak for me anymore. The men retreated, tails tucked, but the poison seeped, guests murmuring comforts while I fought the tide of old shame rising. Alex pulled me to the dance floor, band shifting to a slow La Vie en Rose. His arms a harbor. Their echoes, Chris. You're the song now. We swayed, bodies sinking to the rhythm, and gradually, the night reclaimed its light. Laughter returning with shots of local bourbon. Stories shared in clusters that knit the tear. Later, under lantern glow, Mom pulled me aside, tears glistening. Your father. He stood up for you today. First time in years. I hugged her, the embrace lingering. Forgiveness a river carving canyons. Dad joined. The three of us a knot on the edge of the meadow, stars pricking the velvet sky. Proud son? He said, simple as that, and it landed like rain on parched earth. The party wound down with bonfires crackling, esmores and songs, Alex strumming an impromptu set that had everyone swaying, his voice weaving our story into melody. As embers died, guests departing in Ubers and caravans, we slipped away to the inn suite, bodies spent but souls alight, making love with the windows open to night sounds. Crickets chorusing approval. Dawn found us tangled, rings glinting, the valley waking lazy. Brunch brought closure. Elders' intrusion dissected over mimosas, laughter leavening the anger. Dad confessing head quit the deacon 8 weeks prior. Time for my own scripture. Plans hatched, visits to the farm, perhaps, or city weekends to bridge the miles. But as we packed for the city return, a call shattered the afterglow. Theo, voice hollow from D.C. Chris, it's bad. My ex, he's outing me to the firm. Revenge for the divorce. Panic for my friend. But in that moment, our wedding's resilience echoed, love as armor. Come stay, I said. We rebuild together. The drive south was contemplative. Alex's hand on my thigh. Radio humming indie folk. Betrayal from the fringes had tested, but wed held, the union not just vows but victory over voids. Yet whispers of deeper storms lingered, the past's tendrils not fully severed, hinting at trials yet to crest. Back in the Bushwick loft, the wedding album, digital snapshots from Lilith's camera, played on loop like a talisman, each frame a defiance. Alex and I mid-kiss, confetti swirling, the barn arch framed by our clasped hands. Even the intruders, blurred at the gate, reduced to footnotes in our epic. At 29, marriage felt like a new palette, colors bolder, strokes surer. Our rings constant companions, catching light in studio sessions where ID paint him composing, or head film me at the easel. Raw footage for a music video blending art and sound. The intrusion faded to anecdote, shared at dinner parties with a rye, and that's how we got our uninvited entertainment. Laughter sealing the scar. Theo arrived a week post-honeymoon. A whirlwind to Provincetown, dunes and drag brunches mending any residual cracks. Crashing on our futon with suitcases stuffed with DC detritus. His ex's betrayal a fresh wound oozing in late-night confessions over whiskey. He knew the closets I hid in. Theo slurred one evening, city lights striping the walls. Used it like a blade. We rallied. Alex connecting him to label lawyers. Me sketching therapeutic portraits that externalized his rage. Abstract swirls of shadow yielding to dawn breaks. Work surged. My marital motif series, inspired by the wedding, booked a fall show at a Williamsburg gallery. Canvases of intertwined limbs against urban backdrops. Critics buzzing hymns to homecoming. Alex tour loomed East Coast run, then Europe, but we mapped it like cartographers, video dates and pit stops syncing our orbits. Family threads strengthened. Weekly calls with Mom, her voice thawing as she described planting a rainbow garden at the farm, tulips in Pride Spectrum. Dad sending clippings of progressive Vermont bills, gruff emails signing Love, Elias. A visit cemented it. Thanksgiving in Addison. The table laden with turkey and tamales. Rosa trading recipes with Mom. Laughter echoing in rooms once silent with secrets. This, Dad said, carving the bird. This is what I missed for too long. Tears pricked, but joy overrode. The holiday a harvest of healing. Winter bit with deadlines. My show opening drew crowds, Alex flying back mid-tour for the night. His presence amid the throng a spark that ignited sales. But cracks spidered in the foundation. Subtle at first, Alex late-night calls from hotel rooms laced with fatigue. Miss the chaos, babe, but the crowds. They're devouring. I nodded through screens, masking my own unease. The loft too echoey without his strums. Theo, rebounding with a barista from his temp gig, moved out to a Murray Hill sublet. Hugs at the door promising, oh you eternity. Spring teased renewal, but betrayal brewed distant. An email from Aunt Lydia. Subject, check on Elias. He's slipping, Chris. Church pulling strings. Lost the feed supplier contract. Whispers he's gone soft. Alarm flared. I booked a flight north. Alex tour wrapping in Boston. Joining for the confrontation. The farm met us with mud-season thaw. Rivulets carving paths like veins. Dad in the barn, stacking hay with mechanical fury, paused at our approach, sweat beading under his cap. Knew you'd come sniffing trouble. Over coffee in the mudroom, it spilled. Elders escalating, boycotts on his dairy, veiled threats of vandalism. Stood by you at the wedding, he said, hands trembling on the mug. But this, it's the livelihood. Mom's eyes, shadowed in the kitchen doorway, pleaded silently. My chest tightened, old abandonment flickering. So what fold now? After everything. Alex, ever the mediator, leaned in. It's a choice, sir. Fold or fight with us. Dad deflated, shoulders slumping. I thought I could have both. God and this. The word this hung, encompassing me, us, the life we'd built. We stayed the week, rallying. Calls to queer AG advocates ID met at Pride panels. Crowdfunding for a co-op switch. Alex jamming with local teens at the community center. His music a bridge to Dad's stoic world. One evening, porch swing creaking, Dad opened up his own youth, a crush on a farmhand buried under duty. The fear that birthed my exile. Projected my demons on you, son. Unfair as hell. Tears carved channels, hugs raw, but resolve hardened. Head testify at a state hearing on discrimination. Our family a united front. Back in New York, the crisis lingered like fog, straining calls. Dad's voice edged with strain. Mom's updates clipped. My work darkened. Canvases veined with thorns amid the roses. The gallery extension selling as testimonies of tension. Alex Europe leg loomed, but pre-tour, we escaped to a cabin in the Adirondacks. Wood smoke and loons serenading reconnection. We're solid, he affirmed, fireside. Our bodies aligning under blankets. Storms pass. Yet, summer stormed literal and figurative. Tour dispatches joyful at first. Paris cafes, Berlin raves, but mid-July, a call at 3 a.m. Alex, voice hollow. Fans great, but label wants me to tone down the queer lyrics for radio. Say it's marketable without. Betrayal stung, not just corporate but personal, his art there us sanitized. Fight it, I urged, but he sighed. Tours locked. Compromise for now. Distance amplified doubts. My solo nights in the loft sketching phantoms. Phone silence a void. Then the blow, harvest moon, a package from Addison. Dad's handwriting on the box. Inside, not art supplies as hoped, but a letter and check. For your troubles. Selling the farm. Starting fresh down south. Church offered buyout. Easier this way. God bless. No call, no goodbye, just severance, the check, a blood price on reconciliation. Rage consumed. Tears scalding as I dialed. Voicemail beeping cold. Alex, mid-flight home. Found me wrecked on the fire escape. Letter clutched like indictment. They bailed. I choked. Again. He held me through the night. His flight delay a mercy. But dawn brought resolve. Call him out. Publicly, if needed. But don't let it eclipse us. The hearing loomed. Data no-show. Whispers of his departure rippling through Vermont news. Local farmer flees backlash. Lydia confirmed. Caved to pressure. Mom heartbroken, but they're gone. Florida, I hear. Crisis crested, emotional deluge. Therapy sessions with a queer counselor in Chelsea, where I unpacked the double abandonment, Alex attending, his hand anchor. It's their failure, not yours, the doc affirmed. Fall stripped bare, leaves mirroring my shedding, but from mulch rose determination. A new series, Severed Roots, auctions benefiting anti-discrimination funds, sales soaring as story broke in HuffPost. Artist's family betrays wedding vow. Backlash hit dad anonymously, but closure eluded. Alex tour wrapped triumphant. Radio compromise scrapped post-confrontation with label. His authenticity reclaimed. Winter healed incremental. Holiday cards to nowhere. Our tree adorned with ornaments from the wedding. Toasts to chosen roots. But the scar pulsed. A reminder that healing is helix, not line. Twisting toward light despite the dark. The new year dawned brittle. Snow crusting the loft's skylight like unspoken grief. But in that hush, seeds of rebirth stirred. My severed roots, show extending to spring. Canvases of uprooted trees regrowing in concrete cracks drawing lines out the door. Buyers murmuring cathartic as they claimed pieces of my pain. At 30, marriage to Alex had tempered me. His steady presence a bellows to my embers. Our mornings now ritual. Coffee brewed strong. His composition scoring my sketches. The ring on my finger a talisman against tempests. The farm sale haunted. News snippets of Elias and Margaret in Tampa. Condo living, church hopping. Stinging like salt in wounds half-scabbed. No contact, the check uncashed in a drawer. A symbol of transactions over ties. Therapy unpacked it layer by layer. Sessions in the counselor's sunlit office overlooking Union Square, where pigeons strutted oblivious to human frailties. Betrayal compounds, she noted. But so does grace. Yours, not theirs. Alex joined often, his vulnerability. Tour scars, label wars, mirroring mine, our shared disclosures forging deeper intimacy. Work beckoned outward. A commission for a Seattle Pride mural. Alex tagging along for gigs. The Pacific Northwest's evergreens a balm to Vermont's ghosts. Rain-slick streets of Capitol Hill, we painted side by side, me with brushes broad as hope. Him with lyrics scrawled on plywood. Community converging in cheers and coffee runs. This, he said, paint splattered and grinning, is propagation. Roots spread sideways. Back east, Theo thrived in his post-scandal pivot, landing at a queer rights firm, brunches at our place devolving into board game marathons. His laughter a counterpoint to lingering silences. Spring bloomed collaborations. A graphic novel, Exile Echoes. My art wedded to Alex narrative scores. Crowdfunding shattering goals. Backers sharing their own severed tales in comments that built a virtual village. Mom's birthday slipped by unmarked. April 15th. Etched in my calendar like a scar. Until a postcard arrived. Postmarked Orlando. Her script, shaky. Thinking of you always. Saw your mural online. Beautiful like you. Love, Margaret. No address, but the gesture cracked the ice, tears hot as I showed Alex. Reply? He asked, fingers interlacing. I did, simple. A sketch of the mural, note attached, doors open. Come see. Summer sweltered with festivals. Alex headlining Governor's Ball. Me curating an art tent where queer youth displayed defiance in dye and decal. Amid the throng, a familiar face. Harlan from the shelter years back, now gray-whiskered but spry, clapping Alex set with arthritic hands. Knew you'd make it, kid, he said post-show, hugging fierce. Saw the news on your folks. Hurts, but look at this empire. His words, wizened wisdom, nudged forgiveness forward. Not absolution, but release. Fall crisped with anniversaries. Our first date marked with a rooftop picnic, city sprawl twinkling below like approving eyes. Wedding eve revisited in the Palisades barn, now ours for a vow renewal mini-gala. Chosen family toasting under the same arch invites went broad, including the Tampa address gleaned from Lydia, no expectation, just extension. RSVPs trickled. Finn, Jamal, Theo, Rosa. Then, astonishing, a yes from Margaret, Elias demurring with work conflicts. But her note, "I'll stand for us both." The night arrived velvet, lanterns flickering as guests gathered. Lila officiating anew with vows evolve. Like us. Alex and I reaffirmed, words honed by trials. Through betrayals and blooms, you're my constant. Kiss ceiling amid petals tossed. Mom arrived mid-ceremony, tentative in a floral dress, eyes welling as she took a seat beside Rosa, who patted her hand like old kin. Post-rites, she approached shy. You invited after. Everything. I hugged her, bones fragile under fabric. Family isn't ledger, Mom. Is showing up. We talked halting, her regrets over chamomile tea, the condo son's isolation, Dad's stubborn silence masking shame. He's trying in his way, she said. Therapies. Helping him unpack. No miracles, but bridges mended incremental. Her presence a plank laid across the chasm. Winter wrapped gentle this time. Holidays hybrid. Christmas Eve in Tampa. Flight south a leap. Alex guitar caroling the condo complex. Dad greeted wary, handshake evolving to embrace. The tree twinkling with mismatched ornaments. Our wedding photo framed beside farm relics. Dinner was awkward symphony. Turkey thawed too quick, conversations veering from whether to work, but moments pierced. Dad admiring my latest book, Echoes, thumbing pages with this. It's you, clear as day. Tears brimmed unspoken. Toasts clinking to new chapters. No full reckoning, but seeds sown. The flight home buoyant with possibility. Spring heralded expansion. A Brooklyn studio purchase, walls to echo with future muses. Alex album drop, rerouted, tracks of regrowth topping queer charts. Mom's visits became quarterly, train rides north for gallery crawls, her pride swelling visible. Dad followed suit, sporadic, a Father's Day brunch in Central Park, his questions on my process tentative but tender. Betrayal's echo faded to bass note, not crescendo, the journey teaching that healing is horizon, ever receding but drawing forward. One June dawn, loft bathed in rose light, Alex proposed a family trip, Vermont, full circle, Hawthorne revisited. We went, the academy now progressive, pride flags snapping on poles. Mr. Ellis retired but visiting, toasting with us on the quad where ID once stood alone. Mom and Dad joined, the circle complete under Green Mountain sky, picnic spread with cheeses and cords. To survival's quiet fire, Dad said, raising a glass, and we echoed, voices harmonizing. In that verdant hush, abandonment transmuted, not erased, but alchemized into the gold of chosen kin. Love the philosopher's stone. Years layered, children adopted, 2 boys from foster care, curls like Alex, eyes curious as mine. Our home a haven of sketches and songs, holidays boisterous with extended webs. Elders long faded, farms sold to co-ops thriving on inclusion. At 40, looking back, the rainy drop-off was origin myth, not ending. The wedding invite, a gauntlet thrown that gathered rather than scattered. Life in its American sprawl, from Vermont chill to city heat, proved human, flawed, fierce, forgiving. And in Alex's arms, nightly, I whispered thanks to the boy who endured, the man who loved, the family that, against odds, returned.